congratulations on the film.
Thank you, sir.
I saw this back in Sundance, and there's not a day that goes by that I haven't thought of this film. It's been particularly amazing watching this, given recent political developments. It's a film that sticks with you, and I hope it sticks with the audience. But I just want to talk about the first time that you encountered the play. J.C. Lee wrote the play, collaborated with you on the screenplay. I just wanted to talk about your introduction to the narrative and how how it affected you and how you transitioned to make it into a film.
So there was another movie I almost became involved in making. Actually, I was involved in making, but it didn't happen. It was a movie that was happening at Imagine Entertainment. And JC was the writer of that script, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be involved, and they said, take a look at his writing sample, you can see what he can really do. And it was the play of Luce. And I remember reading it. It was a Sunday night, and I read the whole thing, and I'm a slow reader because I'm always thinking about, okay, what am I going to do with this material? And it just hooked me. And I said, wow, what a brilliant way to explore identity, explore questions of race and class and a whole host of different things, but in a manner that was really asking you to do a little bit of work and to self-reflect and think about your point of view and perspective and how that has an impact on something. And I just knew once I was done reading it that it was something I'd want to turn into a movie.
We go to Sundance, we go to festivals like this, festivals like IFFBoston, and see films that occasionally put things in black and white, that give us the answers, that make us feel a little bit better after the film. This is not that movie.
This is not that movie.
This is not that movie. This is a movie that makes us question. I'm wondering of your own first time through the play, first time through the script, and how your own perspective has shifted as you've come to terms with your project.
The play really shocked me because I'm originally from Nigeria. That's where I was born. I moved to this country at 10. I lived in Arlington, Virginia, where the story is set. So there were so many overlaps in terms of things I confronted and dealt with in terms of my identity, creating an identity for myself, feeling and asking what was my place in the world. And there was just a great deal of discomfort. And in reading it, there were times I trusted Luce, there were times I trusted his mom, there were times I trusted his teacher. By not telling us what to think or feel, but just asking us to consider our perspective and our role, there were truths that it got to that sometimes when a story tries to give you all the answers, it can't. And I think it's because, again, it was really, forcing me as an audience member to reflect on myself, and I was just so galvanized by that and said, let's try and make this into a movie.
If you could talk about assembling the cast and convincing them to inhabit these characters where, again, there's not a lot to hold on to because their morality and their relationships are shifting constantly.
That's a great question. And for Luce in particular, it was a very tricky thing, especially for a young actor like Calvin, who I think did a tremendous job stepping up to the plate. It was in the writing. Fortunately, I think the first person that came on board was Octavia. We had like a 5-minute conversation. I was amping myself up. I'm like, all right, okay, it's Octavia Spencer. Really hope she, doesn't think I'm a total idiot. And the first thing she said was, I know this woman. And that was it. She's from Alabama, and she called her a kingmaker, and she said, I grew up with kingmakers. And that's the reason I was able to, kind of rise from the position that I was as a young woman and become an Oscar winner and such a, celebrated actress that she is now. So she just knew who this character was. And likewise with Naomi, we had what was a really sweet conversation, and she said, I know this, I understand this. She has 2 kids of her own, and I think for a lot of people who are parents who want to trust their kids in every situation and give them the best options and stuff of that sort, you're walking this fine line with any child. So she really related to that, and so did Tim, who's also a parent. And then with Calvin, it was just, he had gone to a private school in New Orleans and had kind of also dealt with issues around identity, like all of us have in our own ways. So he related to that, but it was, it was tricky because the whole movie hinges on if you have a convincing Luce. So I did a huge casting call all over the world, looked at kids in England and Australia. I honestly, and this is my own preconception here, didn't expect I'd find somebody from New Orleans who would just embody this character in a way. I figured, there's such a robust theater tradition in some of these, in places like England and Australia. But Calvin sent out a tape, and it was just undeniable.
I mean, to your point, some of the most poignant African American roles have been taken by Europeans.
Exactly.
Or those of Caribbean descent.
Yeah.
Because there has been a shift in the narratives that are told about these type of characters that sometimes it needs to be told from the outside. I'm just wondering if you could talk about your own reflection, your own connection, because in many ways, I say this as a Canadian, in many ways this is an incredibly American story in terms of its celebration and its sociopathy. I'm just wondering if you could talk about your own dynamic there.
Well, again, I feel like I live as an insider and an outsider in America because of being an immigrant here. And I grew up in Arlington, and in many ways, the American story is my experience. I was a kid who came here as an immigrant and got a scholarship, went to college, went to film school, and got to tell this story. But then in the process of moving here, I had the American experience and history thrust on me, especially an experience with blackness and black identity. So I could very much, again, relate to that notion of, oh, this is who I thought I was, but then this is the expectation that a whole host of other people have placed on me based on factors that are completely out of my control. I mean, the whole idea of even being American and being an African American was something that I had to learn in ways that Luce had to learn. And then again, the baggage that comes with that, both positively and negatively, were things I had to negotiate and still have to negotiate. So that kind of, somewhat schizophrenic experience and the complications that can result were things that were just really personal to me. I thought, worthy of a movie and hopefully something that other people could relate to as well.
This is a film that calls us on our shit. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
In many ways and in many different flavors and many different colors. You've shown it to many audiences now. How has the audience reaction surprised you? And how has it energized you? And how has it disappointed you?
It's been a little bit of all of those things. The way it surprised me, frankly, is I've been really pleased and thankful with how many people have been open to the questions that the movie is asking. And look, it doesn't kind of give you that traditional experience of what this kind of movie can often be in terms of offering a moral or a message.
I didn't see Michelle Pfeiffer show up in this film.
or an answer, or holding your hand. But there's always going to be people who want a more traditional experience, who want to be told what to think and feel, and shut off to something like this. And is that disappointing? Sure it is. But I think when you're asking a question, you have to be prepared for any answer.
Did the answers to these questions shift as you lived with the film?
In what way?
In the way that the film actually explicitly asks, are you part of this family or not? Are you going to accept this? Are you going to take these on as your truths? Is Luce the good guy? Or is he the bad guy?
Did it shift for us as we were writing, or?
Has it shifted with you since you've even made the film?
I know what I believe, but I'm always hesitant to be too specific about that because it's very easy for that to turn into gospel. So I'll say this, I know what I believe.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming. There's
Thank
some
you guys so much.
incredible movies here. Support this festival and support this film.